In this Kotlin on Android tutorial, we're going to add icons for video capture and thumbnail display. Welcome to Mobile Application Tutorials. My name's Nigel. Okay, so we're starting a new series here. It's going to be capturing video this time. So it's all going to be setting up for capturing video. Okay, and if you look here, we've got my website here. So this goes through the list of episodes. These episodes are going to be released at time of recording after the first series, which was the Kotlin camera2 preview display, and so these are all about video capture, as you can see down below. And if you want to get this documentation, you just have to sign up free for free membership, and there will be a link in the description. If you want to get all these episodes straight away, you will have to buy the Kotlin camera2 API product for the price of $10 US, and you'll get all the Kotlin camera2 API episodes for that, including future ones. Okay, and you will be able to get the code to start this tutorial. It's based on the last episode on the camera API to preview series, and so you'll be able to get the code for that to start this tutorial if you don't want to do the previous series. And people who do buy the camera2 API product will get a video explaining how to get the code from Git and how to get it installed and running on their project. Okay, so we'll make a start. If we jump across to your Android Studio, and the code we see here is at the end of the camera2 API preview series, so you can see the link in that in the description website, also in the description on YouTube. Okay, so we'll make a start straight away. What we want to do is add some buttons: a capture button for capturing video. We want to add a button for displaying a thumbnail of that captured video, and we're also going to add a chronometer timer to that as well. So the first thing we need to do is add some drawables. So I'm just going to go across to resource, actually, right click on that, go to new, scroll on down to image asset. Okay, I'm just going to change the launcher icons to action bar tabs and icons, and before I forget, we're going to set this theme to hello dark, and good idea to change the name. You don't want this default name. Okay, so I'll set this to IC camera capture, click on clip art. Okay, and I'm just going to go to image, and I just want a round circle here, so I'm going to use the panorama fisheye. It's like a button, and we can select next and finish. Okay, I'm going to do the same for the exactly same process to get the thumbnail button for that. It will I will fast forward it without the audio. Okay, so I've added these two images. I just want to add one more. Well, actually, we're going to move across and set up our constraint layout, where we're going to sort of insert those drawables into a constraint layout. So we need to jump across to our preview fragment file here, click on that. Okay, I'm just going to increase my screen real estate here. Right. So currently here we've got this big preview display here. What I want to do is I want to add some buttons down here. So I'm just going to go into our text, actually, and I just want to get my face back up on the screen. This area here is my real estate for my face. I always forget that. Anyway, so what we've got here is a frame layer, and so what we want to do is we're going to change that to a constraint layout, and then I'm going to sort of add another constraint layout and use that as like the positioning for our icons. So it's just a matter of, if we change this top name up here to Constraint Layout. Okay, and that should be fine. Android Studio's done the rest for us. Now we click across to the Design tab. Right, here we've got our preview view here, and notice we've got the navigation bottom at there. So I want to add the buttons just here. So what I'm going to do is go to Layouts, go to Constraint Layout, and I'm going to drag this at the bottom. There. The reason I'm dragging it at the bottom is so it sits on top of our preview, or else the buttons would be hidden behind the preview display. So we've got our constraint layout. I just want to do some sizing and positioning here. So something like this is okay for the top, and the bottom I want actually sort of hitting on top of our navigation view like this. Okay, so here's my constraint layout. I'm not going to infer any, well actually I can infer some constraints now. So I go across the magic wand and let's infer our constraints for that. And it's still giving me a warning. Oh, the warning's gone away. Okay, now I can go across and add our buttons. So if we go to images and we select just an image view, actually, it's easy enough to put listeners on there. And this can go right in the middle. And this is going to be our camera capture button. Select OK for that. Now I want to adjust the size of this, so I want to make it big. Something like that. Let's get back in there and see if I can reposition it. Just hitting the bouncy ball. Okay, that's okay. Now if we look across in this position here, I'm just going to make both the height and the width the same. Okay, that's fine for that. I'll be able to center it later on in the constraint layout, but I want to add a few more views here. So the next one's going to be for the thumbnail. So what I'm going to do here is to select this, and it's just Control-C, Control-V for a Mac. And I've created a second image view here. So if I select that here and then drag that across, we can do the alignment later on. We've got our two image views by doing the Control-C, Control-V. And we'll go back to the first one, and let's give it a name. I'll just give it a name. And so the name I'll give it will be, the first one's going to be Capture Button. And you also need to give it a description, or else you get a warning. And so to do that, we're just going to add resource, and I'll call the resource name Capture Button, and the resource value will be button for capturing media. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for this image view too. And so image view 2 is going to be image thumbnail. I'll actually just call it thumb button. Thumbnail button. It's going to be generated thumbnail from the video, and I will need to add a content description for that as well. So add a new resource, add a new string value, and this will be thumbnail button, and I'll just say displays thumbnail of captured media. So in the future this will be for both video and images as well. It'll be used for both. Okay, so we've got the name for that, and there's just one final view I want to add here. So we click on the magnifying glass and select Chronometer. I want to put a chronometer in there as well. There it is. Little chronometer. I'm going to have it positioned at the top, and I want it bigger. And also to help make it bigger, if we go to text appearance, and I'm going to use app compact large as well. But let's add our constraints. Okay, so I'm going to do this manually. I'm going to add these constraints to the vertical constraints for each view. So it's just a matter of selecting each layout and selecting the round circle and just dragging up like that. And then we can do the same for the bottom ones. What this will effectively do is we'll just position it in the middle there vertically. Okay, now I'm going to add the horizontal constraints. I'll do the capture button first. I'm just going to drag it straight to the end there and do the same here. And that centered that. Now I can do these two, and I'm going to center them on this button here and on the end. And so it's the method of centering our constraints. Okay, and I also want to drag this slightly, make it aligned with the top. That should do that for the chronometer. Okay, so I'm just going to click on Chronometer 2, and now I can sort of change that to Chronometer. When we did the copy and paste here for the thumbnail button, we're giving it the same icon there. So what I want to do is to change that icon. So we click on Source Compact, and we want to change that to IC Camera Thumb. Select OK, and it will give us the thumbnail icon, or else they're both going to be the same here. Okay, so I go back to text. We've done this. We can move across to the code itself, and we're going to add listeners for the image button, the image capture button, and the thumbnail button. These listeners, I'm going to put them inside. Once the actual application activity is created, the calling activity for this fragment, I will put the listeners on these buttons. We can call that on activity created. That's once the parent activity is created, this will get called, and then we can add our button listeners. So the first one I'll do will be, capture button down there, and set on click listener, and it'll be the second one down here, which is a Kotlin lambda. And at the moment I'm just going to put a log there just to let us know that we've captured that. So it needs a tag first, word tag, and I can just put capture button selected. Okay, and we'll put a listener for our thumbnail as well, because it's not going to be displaying a thumb, it will play back the video that's been captured. So it'll be a thumbnail button, and it's again set on click listener, use the lambda one there, and I'll just go up here and copy this line and paste it down there, and just change that word to thumbnail button selected. And so both those should display. I'm not just going to run it just yet. I just want to add a little bit more code here. So remember how we set up the Chronometer view inside our preview view layout? We're going to start and stop that as well. So we'll get the code in place for that. Okay, so we'll just create some more functions. One will be start Chronometer. It's not going to take any parameters or return anything. Okay, to start the chronometer, the first thing we need to do is to get the elapsed time, just for the recording for that. So I can call the chronometer, and we'll set the base for that, the Kotlin weight, and it's a matter of setting the base reference time, the current time to start the timer from. So we'll call this system clock and pass in the elapsed real time. So that's setting the base for that. And I also want to change the color for this as well. So I can set the color. So I can call Chronometer. And it will be text. So we can call set text color actually. And if I do a call on resources, get color, and call Android resource color red. So I'm going to go for the light red here. And I'm just going to set the theme for null. Okay, and we are getting a warning there. It says it requires for this particular API call. It is a newer API call. The current one, if you remove the null, is being deprecated, so we don't want that. So it says here that call requires API level 23, and the current is 21. So let's change that to 23 by going into our build.gradle file and set the minimum SDK from 21 to 23, replace that, and you will need to do a sync. And sync is now completed, so we'll go back to our file, and that error has gone away. It did take a bit of time. Okay, so and finally, we better call Chronometer start. Okay, if we're going to start the chronometer, it's a good idea to have a function to stop it, so we'll create that now. And I'm just going to copy this line up here of the color, because we'll change the color back to white, which was the default color. So just go into here, change that line there, white. And we'll also need to call the chronometer stop. Okay, so we've got our two start and stop functions and chronometer functions in place. And what we need to do is every time we press the capture button, we want to note that state. So when you press the capture button first, it's going to monitor the state, which will be capture recording. But when you press it again, it's going to want to stop that. So we're going to select is recording or is captured or not. So let's select it down here. I'll just create a new member down here. It'll be private, it'll be a var, and we're just going is captured. And it's going to be a boolean, and we can infer the value false. Okay, so it's captured as you're pressing. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so let's go back down to the on activity created. And we're going to check the state within this capture button listener. So if is captured, let's put the else in here. So if captured is true, we want to set it to false. And then if it's set to false, if it's true, it's currently running, so we want to stop. I meant to type stop. Stop the chronometer. And we'll do the opposite here. So if it's currently false, we want to set it to true. And start the chronometer. Okay, and at this stage, this is all the code I want to do for this particular episode. It was mainly setting up our icon buttons, but it's good to add our listeners and to get the chronometer out of the way. So let's run this and see if those buttons are displaying and those button click listeners are working. So the applications are now started. So I'll just hold it up so I can see it. So you can see we've got the 3 buttons there. Thumbnail button's not going to do anything in this particular episode, but let's press the capture button. And as you can see, Chronometer's changed color and is now incrementing. If we press it again, it should stop. So I'm just keeping it stopped there, but if you start it again, the counter will reset again. Okay, so that's all I wanted to do for this particular episode. As you can see, we're not capturing video just yet. There's a fair bit more code that has to go in there, so we'll get that done in the next 2 episodes. And one other point, if you are debugging this code, I'll just bring up this bottom window there. As you can see, we are verifying our capture button selected, and we can do the same for the thumbnail as well. So it's a good idea just to verify those buttons are the on-click listeners for those buttons are working. And that concludes this episode. We mainly focused on using Android's constraint layout and showing you how you could add buttons to the constraint layout and showing you how to position them. So the constraint layout is quite powerful. It's user-friendly in a certain way of dragging, dropping icons and positioning them, but the devil is in the detail, of course, and knowing how to set up your constraints and using those for alignments and setting up icons for alignment against the other constraint layout as we demonstrated there below. And then it was just a simple matter of putting listeners on those buttons, and then we demonstrated how you can start and stop a chronometer timer as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is the first episode of these series. These series will be released in a certain order. There is going to be more videos added to the end of this episode. I know that straight away because I'm currently developing the code for that, and so there will be a number of premium tutorials at the bottom below there. And if these episodes haven't been released yet at this moment in time from speaking, you can get hold of all the episodes in this series for the price of $10 US. It's a one-off fee, and that will also include all the premium tutorials from the previous camera2 API preview series as well. Okay, so that concludes this series. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button and the bell icon next to it to get notified of my YouTube videos. They are coming out regularly now. And if you do have any questions for me, I think you can understand I am quite busy and I don't have time to respond to technical questions on YouTube. But I do make myself available on CodeMentor, where I provide paid consultancy support. And I do have Twitter and Facebook as well. My handle's just up above there. And I do make plenty of announcements on those social media platforms as well. Anyway, thank you for taking the time for watching this one. Bye for now.